And welcome, everyone, to our Bleacher Report AP Top 25 Men's Basketball Reaction. I'm Andy Katz from the NCAA and Turner Sports. All right, so first off, we're going to get to the poll. You're going to see the screen on your screen. You will see the AP Top 25. We'll talk about my Power 37, my team and player of the week, our games to watch. Maybe we'll take some questions. I want to say one thing in general first, which is that I get a kick out of when I was at Maryland last Wednesday. I had a bunch of fans yelling at me, rank us, rank us, rank us. Well, clearly you Maryland fans weren't paying attention that we're yelling that, because on this platform online, I have Maryland, and finally, the people have listened to me and is ranked in this week's AP Top 25 poll. We'll get to that momentarily. Let's just go right into it, because I won't give away where they are ranked until we see it on our screen here. But Auburn 1 and Duke 2 and Alabama 3. So what we're seeing right now is we are seeing a little bit of a separation. I'm feeling like those are the three best teams in the country, and don't think that we're going to deviate from that. I think there's a good chance that all three are going to be ranked, are going to have the three top seeds in the NCAA tournament. The fourth, number one, could be another SEC team, could be a Big 12 team. We'll have to wait and see. Could it be Houston? Could it be Iowa State? Tennessee, Florida. More than likely one of those at this point. By the way, a week from Saturday, so that's the 15th, will be the first Sweet 16 reveal from the Men's Basketball Selection Committee. So we'll get a sense of where things are at that moment in time, roughly about 4 weeks before Selection Sunday. So that'll be a really good indicator. So there you see right in the middle of your screen, we've got it all up for you. Maryland at number 18. Maryland, I was there last Wednesday when they beat Wisconsin. That was coming off that road sweep of Illinois and Indiana. The Terps are one of the best teams in the Big Ten. If not, I think, potentially top 10 in the country. So I'm going to say where I had them momentarily, but I will go through this top 25 first. 1, 2, 3, Auburn, Duke, Alabama, no problem. I think that's the order at this moment in time of the top seeds. I think Alabama and Auburn will be in Lexington for that first round. You can already plan that. And I think Duke will be in Raleigh. Lock it in. So now you got Tennessee. What an impressive win for the Vols. 44 points is all they held Florida to. And Tennessee was missing 2 starters. Phenomenal performance defensively. By the way, Auburn with Johni Broome is back. He's playing great. They won at Ole Miss. And Duke, I was there on Saturday. Total dismantling of North Carolina. They were up 32 midway through the second half. Ended up winning by 17. Cooper Flagg was phenomenal. Flagg and Broome are going to go 1A throughout the course of the season. I think it's going to be a great race for National Player of the Year. And I actually would not be surprised if, I don't know why we won't. Let me say this. I won't be surprised if we don't see them splitting some of the awards, because we've got the Wooden Award, we've got the Naismith, the Robertson, the AP, and the Rupp. That's 5 National Player of the Year awards, and I could see Auburn Broome and Flagg splitting those. All right, Houston, upset by Texas Tech, tremendous comeback. JT Toppin ejected for a flagrant 2. This is very similar to happen to Jalen Leach at Northwestern. Now, the rule as it was conveyed to me is any contact to the groin area, whether it's a fist, a kick, that is an automatic flagrant 2 and ejection if the official deems it not accidental. Sort of some negatives in there, but in the case of Jalen Leach at Northwestern, they deemed that it was essentially intentional, which is what they really should say. And that's essentially what they decided on Toppin too. Now, McCaslin was irate. He He was ejected, and yet Texas Tech still came back and won that game. So unbelievable comeback for them to beat Houston on the road and snap a 33-game win streak. All right, I'm just going to keep going down. I know we're having some graphic issues there. I think it's just better if I'm just going to read them off here from our AP Top 25 from off their website here. So at 6, you got Florida. As I said, they lose by 20, 64-44 to Tennessee. So Tennessee avenges that thrashing that Florida put on Tennessee. At 7, Purdue, the Boilermakers, really clicking right now. Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn. They got pushed by Indiana in the rivalry game. I knew they would. That always happens in the rivalry games, and yet Purdue was able to prevail. Iowa State, kind of a crazy week for the Cyclones. They should have beaten Arizona. Caleb Love, who struggled in the first half, in the second half played much better, and then he hits a 55-foot three-pointer to tie the game. There were 2 seconds left. You really can't say you should foul with 2 seconds. I would put my chances. It's exactly what TJ Otzelberger did. See if he can hit that. 9 times out of 10, he's probably not going to hit that shot, but he did. Then in overtime, they dominated, and Love was great in that performance. Then Iowa State, I don't know what the heck happened. I was at Duke, Carolina. I missed this game, I'll be honest, so I didn't see it. I just can't believe that they lost by, 19 at home to K-State. It's crazy. Michigan State goes to USC, loses. They're at UCLA tomorrow night. A&M split their week. It's a good win over South Carolina. It was a little close. Marquette upset at home by UConn. I say upset because UConn still doesn't have Liam McNeely, and UConn, had beaten DePaul earlier in the week, but Marquette had been playing a little bit on the edge, even at home. St. John's, Kadari Richmond with the buzzer beater, essentially, or last possession to beat Providence. They're still one loss to Creighton in the Big East, and St. John's is the leader in the pack. Texas Tech, 13. I like that with that win over Houston. Kentucky, tough loss to Arkansas. That was after Kentucky beat Tennessee on the road. So crazy week for the Wildcats. John Calipari comes in with the Hogs and beats Kentucky. Missouri, great week, swept the week, and they beat Mississippi State on the road. Not easy to do down in Starkville. Kansas beats UCF, blew a big lead to Baylor. 20 points. Yikes. On the road in Waco. Memphis are getting pushed a little in the American, yet they still win. There is Maryland at 18. Deserving. Very much so. Glad to see it. UConn, back higher up. Last week they were 25. Now they're 19 after that win against Marquette. Arizona, crazy week. They come back and they beat Iowa State. Then they win at Arizona State. Caleb Love gets ejected. Bobby Hurley doesn't even want to shake hands. A lot of bad blood between these two programs right now. But Arizona, they're right there with Texas Tech and Houston at the top of the Big 12. Wisconsin, lost at Maryland last week. Bad second half. Come back and beat Northwestern. Mississippi State, kind of surprised they stayed in the rankings here because they had a bad week. Illinois, Tomislav Ivicic, he comes back on Sunday from mono. They beat Ohio State after they lost at Nebraska. Michigan, good bounce back for them. It was a week or so ago when they got blown up by Purdue. And then they go to Rutgers and beat Rutgers. They hold Ace Bailey, I think, 0 for 7 on threes after he had 37 earlier in the week against Northwestern. And there's Ole Miss. They kind of had a rocky week, lost at home to Auburn. So let's go a comparison to my Power 37. So I had Auburn 1, Duke 2, Alabama 3. I had Purdue 4, Tennessee 5. Remember, Tennessee lost early in the week to Kentucky. St. John 6, Iowa State 7, Houston 8. So I've, a little movement there. Michigan State 9. So same there. Texas Tech 10 for me. Memphis 11. AP Top 25 had Memphis at 17. Maryland 12 for me, 18 AP. Arizona 13. Arizona 20. Missouri 14 for me, 15 for them, so we're in line. I dropped Florida. You're only scoring 44 points. I dropped them to 15. They stayed in the top 10, AP at 6. Wisconsin 16. Wisconsin ends up at 21, AP. New Mexico. I had New Mexico 17. And I pleaded on Saturday night to AP Top 25 voters, please rank New Mexico. The Lobos went to arguably one of the hardest places in the Mountain West and won. They beat Utah State in Logan. They are top of the league. They've got one loss, that kind of freaky loss to San Jose. They've already beaten San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State on the road. They're playing well. They got them next. And then they beat Utah State on the road. So they've beaten all the teams in their neighborhood at the top of the Mountain West, only losing actually to one team well below them. They should be ranked. Creighton, where is Creighton? Creighton at 18 beat UConn on the road, and they're nowhere to be found in this top 25. I had Kentucky 19, A&M 20, UConn 21, Marquette 22. Clemson, again, no respect for Clemson. They are one loss in the ACC. I have them at 23. And my 24 and 25, UCLA, they are crushing it right now. They flipped the script. They're defending. Eric Riley playing exceptional right now, the transfer from Oklahoma State. They're getting contributions all over the place. They're defending. So I have them at 24. And then I got St. Mary's at 25. Maybe people did not stay up for that win over Gonzaga on Saturday night. The Gales are 3 games ahead of Gonzaga and San Francisco in first place in the WCC. Then I've got Illinois 26, Louisville 27. They lost to Georgia Tech. I dropped Kansas to 28. Below that big lead of Baylor. I got Ole Miss at 29, so I dropped them. Oklahoma I brought back in at 30 after they blasted Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt 31, they just dropped out of the top 25. Mississippi State, they lost both games. I dropped them to 32. Michigan, I have them in there, but 33, not 24. BYU back in because BYU beat Baylor and UCF. So I got BYU at 34. Utah State at 35. And then George Mason at 36 atop the A-10. And then Cleveland State, 37. The Vikings have won 13 in a row in the Horizon League. Our March Madness National Player of the Week was Caleb Love, the former Pac-12 Player of the Year. As I said, hit the three-pointer to send the game in overtime, finished 22 points in that 11-point overtime win. Then he scored 27 before getting ejected against Arizona State. Arizona now 9-1, 15-6 overall. Our National Team of the Week, Texas Tech. Red Raiders, as I said, stunning upset at Houston, despite losing Toppin and their head coach, Grant McCaslin. So they win 82-81 in overtime. Earlier in the week, they've won 6 in a row, 8-2, 17-4 overall. All right, here are my top 10 of the week. Iowa State at Kansas, Monday night. Jayhawks could better win that game. And Iowa State's coming off 2 losses, unheard of for this team the last 2 years. So big game in Lawrence for both teams if they want to catch Houston, Texas Tech, and Arizona. On Saturday, you get Duke at Clemson. To me, this is one of 2 chances left for Duke to lose the rest of the ACC. So big game for Clemson coming up. Friday night, St. John's at UConn. First of 2 times these 2 schools will meet. Pitino, Hurley, should be a great matchup. Rocket atmosphere at UConn. Absolutely just fantastic. Michigan State at UCLA on Tuesday. Spartans trying to avoid getting swept in LA. Michigan State was the hottest team in the Big Ten. Now UCLA has got to be one of the hottest teams. Saturday, Texas Tech at Arizona. Big time matchup now in the Big 12. As I mentioned, they're right there with Houston atop the league. Wednesday, I'll be at Oregon at Michigan. This game's a bigger game for Oregon right now after they lost Sunday night to Nebraska. Missouri at Tennessee on Wednesday. Tennessee's actually behind Missouri in the SEC standings. Big game for the Vols. Saturday, Florida at Auburn. This game's going to be up and down, a lot of scoring. Marquette at St. John's Tuesday night. So before St. John's plays UConn, Marquette's got to get right after losing at home to UConn. And then Alabama at Arkansas on Saturday. Arkansas now feeling great about themselves because they beat Kentucky on the road. They already beat Georgia, so they're starting to feel really good. If they can knock off Alabama, it's clearly going to help their potential NCAA chances. So we shall see. All right. Let's take a look. Why is Tennessee at 4? I didn't put them at 4, so that's an AP question. Why is St. John's behind Marquette? Again, fair question, but that's more of a body of work, I think, for the poll. And maybe that's a fair criticism of me. Auburn and, the Auburn-Florida game is too low. Possibly, sure. I wouldn't say Texas Tech not being in the top 10 is criminal, but I did have them 10. Is Kentucky slumping? They're injured. So that's why they're not playing to their full potential. I agree. St. Mary's should be ranked. Ridiculous. I agree. Kansas should not be in the top 20. I agree. New Mexico got snubbed. Should Duke be number 1? And your probably argument is, well, they beat Auburn at home. But of late, they've both been playing exceptionally well. Auburn's had better wins of late. That's why they're 1. UConn, it's fair to not rank them. I could go either way. I have them in the back part of that. Chances Providence wins the Big East? 0. I disagree. Purdue shouldn't be 7 since they haven't played anyone. I disagree with that. Will the Spartans win the Big Ten? Not quite sure. They got a hard schedule down the stretch. Baylor wasn't snubbed because early in the week they lost to BYU. You kind of forget that. Yes, they came back and beat Kansas, but they lost to BYU early in the week. Is A&M a sleeper? They're not going to be a sleeper. They're going to be a top 4-line seed. So the Aggies certainly are not going to sleep on it. No one's going to sleep on them. The ceiling for Maryland, they could get to the Final Four. I mean, without being too chalk, Auburn, Duke, and Alabama are 3 teams certainly I think could be in the Final Four, and the 4th, wide open. I agree Iowa State should drop more than that because they lost to Arizona and Kansas State. The Kansas State one is the crazy outlier. Coach of the Year candidates, well, I think you're going to go right off the top to Bruce Pearl, John Shire, Nate Oates. But it's kind of weird, people like to say about Mark Pope and Rick Barnes and Todd Golden all done great jobs. Dennis Gates, they were winning last year in the SEC. Could one coach in the SEC Coach of the Year and Bruce Pearl win national? Could happen. Indiana, look, this is what I say about Indiana. Indiana, has probably the hardest schedule of any conference team down the stretch, regardless of conference. But what they do have is our opportunities. I mean, every game's a quad 1 game. So you win 4 of them, maybe, they'll get in. You get hammered, they're not. It's kind of that simple for them. Cincinnati is a lost cause at this point. Yes, they're not making the tournament. Does Arizona win the Big 12? Talk to me after the Texas Tech game. Randy Bennett could definitely be a Coach of the Year candidate. He's a Coach of the Year in the WCC for sure. So that's a good add there as well. I think that'll do it. All right, so here's the deal. Some house cleaning things. Number 1, I'm going to have another Metrics 101 with all 5 major metric creators, for lack of a better term. I'll post that on Tuesday. We're continuing our series of Meet the Men's Basketball Selection Committee members all week. So we've got that. We've had chats over the last week with me and Seth Davis on various topics. So there's plenty to digest. I'll personally be at the Oregon-Michigan game on Wednesday night. Next week, I'm going to Tennessee, Kentucky. And then the following week, 2 weekends, so 3 weeks, I guess. Unbelievable doubleheader. You got Illinois Duke at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night, and St. John's UConn, the second game after they play this week at the Garden. That's February 22nd and 23rd. So we've got 5 weeks left of the regular season, 6 weeks until Selection Sunday, because 5 weeks regular season, week of Champ Week, Selection Sunday. So we're getting closer. We're into February now. Our bracket. Our bracket always pops on Tuesdays, so check that out on our social media platforms. As always, you can look me up at the Andy Katz on X and at the Real Andy Katz on Instagram. Thank you to our producer Caitlin Schmidt, not Caitlin Clark, whose number was retired on Sunday at Iowa. Caitlin Schmidt doing a great job for us for Bleacher Report and our teams in Atlanta and New York. Appreciate everyone, and we will chat with you again next week and check out all our content this week.